about market stats, reviewing offers, and some recent instability with stocks. And here's our legal disclaimer and notice. We are not giving out legal or financial advice here, just a bunch of good ideas for you to think about. You there, Dean?
I'm here, loud and clear. I can hear you.
So there's Dean's contact. We've been at this for about 8 months now, and he's the CPA turned real estate agent. Still works the accounting job, but you guys can check him out at YouTube and not Instagram. That's the grown up Instagram. This is the LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But what's been happening in the market recently here in Hawaii?
Oh yeah, so September was a pretty interesting month. As you can see here, another record high for our median single family price at 812,500. We also see that median condo prices also rose, but the interesting thing is on the closed sales and days on market for both single family and median the condo prices. We see that closed sales for both go down and the days on market go up. Basically, that's a great sign for if you're on the buying side, right? Because it seems um, finally seeing evidence or consistent evidence of that shift that we've talked about before. Although we do have the new record with the median single family um,
Wow,
price.
that's high.
Yeah, it's and the previous high was last month, which was August, which was 810,000. So the prices are still going up, but at least for the benefit of buyers, we're seeing a little bit of slowdown in terms of sales, and days on market is creeping up. So that's again good signs for the buyers. As in the past, I like to show the trend in new listings for the last 3 months, and so we in both single family and condo townhouses we see it trending down. From July, August, September, we see both sides dropping down, and I also showed compared to prior year September 17 and September, we see that it's actually new listings are lower than they were in prior year. However, if you compare September new listings compared to the closings, we'll see that we're at a net positive in terms of, I guess, new inventory coming on market versus what's closed. Yeah, so theoretically, at net, the inventory is slowly creeping up, which again is good for the buyers out there because it's been quite challenging on that side. It has been great for the sellers. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, now we're seeing shift in the numbers actually because I think everyone's been talking about for the last 5-6 months already. So we're seeing that reflect in the numbers solid now. Yeah. So next thing I wanted to talk about was when you are on the seller side, some things that you should not do when you're reviewing offers. Again, this is something it's on a case by case basis. So every situation is different. However, just bringing these three things that I'm saying that we shouldn't do, just as kind of like a topic of conversation, and also to just explain things.
So these are when you got like a client who's you're selling your house, and then they're getting some offers. These are things.
Yes, yeah. Thanks for the clarification. Yep. So when someone is trying to sell their place, has listed it, had the open house, and we have offers to review now. On the table, purchase contracts ready to be countered or accepted. Yep. So the first thing that I put was you should not jump on the first offer you get. So I mean, the main thing is, again, it's on a case by case basis, and ideally you want your realtor to be educating you so that it helps you understand the market, and he should of course understand the market, and that patience is definitely key. But I guess my point is that, heaven forbid if you have your first open and on Sunday, and then come Monday, Tuesday, and there you have one offer, and it's not what you're expecting. Don't necessarily have to get anxious and counter or whatnot. Um, you know, or just accept the offer. You can be patient, and you wait for the next open, or have him or her, the realtor, market it better. I mean, ideally your realtor is going to be marketing it properly and educating you on the market, and having you price it right, because that's really important. I think is pricing it right, so that um,
Yeah,
you
this
you
is a little bit of a dating advice here. Yeah.
yeah, and again, like I said, it totally depends on your situation, because prime example is, just last month we closed on my client's listing, and we had so that one, um, when we first started researching the market, which was maybe 2 months prior, and this is in Milani town side, there were maybe 12 comparables. So it's a single family 3 bedroom um, house that, when we looked at the, just put comparables, there may be 12 comparables, 3 to 4 bedrooms available. Not necessarily, not pure comps, but just pulling that general statistic of three to four beds, a single family in Milani town, and that was when we listed it, and we had, in that scenario, we got an offer 5,000 above asking, so we had accepted it. However, maybe maybe a month into the process, when I pulled to see how many comparables were now available, there were 19 versus the 12. So, if I guess my point is, if we were a month later in terms of marketing and listing, then it might be a different story in terms of, if we got an offer again. It's all if, yeah, if we got an offer 10,000 under, it might be a different scenario in terms of if we would jump on
Yeah,
the
so
first
the
offer.
needle moved a little bit more in the seller's favor, and they could have strongly negotiated or kind of stayed on their position.
Yeah, yeah. So it's very challenging, and you need to understand the market, and it could change in a few weeks. So my second point is, of the 3 things not to do, is you shouldn't always focus on the offer price. Of course, that's one term that everyone's going to be, all the sellers are going to be considering a number one, right? Because um, everybody wants to tap into that equity, and either use those funds either to buy their next place, or whatever they need it for. However, there's a lot of other considerations, when you're looking at the offer coming in. Some of them would be, one of them would be down payment. How much the buyer is willing to put as their down payment. That that's evidence of, one, their financial strength, and also that helps in terms of, when it in terms, if it's a financing deal. If it's a finance deal, you could have issues when it comes time to appraise the property. So the larger down payment would be evidence of a stronger buyer, and help in terms of closing, or the on the financing side.
So,
So
so when
my
you guys are like looking at offers, and there's that letter in there from the bank, supposedly like John Smith has, they have $500,000 in the bank, or if they can close on that. Do you guys look at that, or like
no,
look at what
yeah,
that number is going up to?
yeah, that definitely. And well, typically the smart um, buyers and agents, their submission for the pre-approval letter, pre-qualification letter, is gonna be at that price.
Yeah, I would just have a Word document. I would just change it.
Okay, I have stories about that, but
Yeah.
yeah. So no, but that brings up another point in terms of not focusing on price. It's actually considering the lender too, and I mean most. I'm thinking that most good agents will either on either side. If I'm on the seller side, I'd want to talk to the lender and before we counter or accept to see the number one the financial strength of the potential buyer, and two, I'm looking at the financial institution and the lender, the loan officer themselves to see if that institution has a good rep, rep of closing timely and closing as well as that officer if they're tried and true. So on the buyer side, if you please, it's a good idea to select your lender wisely. I think we talked about it at another episode too. So yeah, I mean, lender is very important. Um, Other terms that are important too would be the inspection period. You want a clean offer, so that means you want to if the buyer is really serious and the buyer's agent is smart, they would put really tight time frames in terms of like the J1 inspection. I mean, maybe 10 days is a pretty good tight time frame for them to get a inspector um, out there, take a look at the property as well as if there's any concessions that they're going to ask for, and then to settle on that. So that the J1 inspection time frame or that contingency is another consideration. Also, things like if the buyer sometimes they'll say they'll they'll in the offer they'll pay for the professional cleaning or they'll pay for the termite inspection. So that these small things that they're willing to pay is just to show that they're serious about closing, and it sweetens the deal for the seller because these small fees, even they're fees, but they're even though they're small, they can add up, and it's a good gesture on the buyer side to strengthen the offer just a little bit. And
So are people like waiving their inspection contingency these days, or what's the deal there?
um, see, inspection one, I would not recommend waiving. Um, what I mentioned was just making that time frame tighter because you could have inspection period of 15, 20 days, but the from the seller side you would want a shorter time frame because that will it'll well you know that the buyer is serious and they're going to get in, do their due diligence, and get that done. So if there is any quote unquote deal breakers, you'll know right away and you can either move on or um, you can negotiate in terms of repairs, price, credits, that kind of stuff. So the the time frame is better. I mean, I've heard of people waiving their their J1 inspection, but like I said, I wouldn't recommend it. But another reason why they might do so is unlike condos where it's for the most part you know that if it's a concrete building that not gonna
Yeah,
be
not too
big
much
structural
stuff.
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I mean I've seen it before. Or I also had one client who didn't waive it, but instead of hiring a professional inspector, he went in and just did the inspection himself. And kind of no, and he had. I mean, he was in that trade, but he was just a real handy guy. He even had those connection checkers for the electrical to see if that it's wired properly, if it's grounded properly, or if it's reversed. Um, so I've experienced that also. And even considering the the cover letter from the buyer is kind of something to think about too, because I mean it's kind of good to hear the story of who you're trying to sell to, and a lot of sellers actually want their, especially if it's the primary residence, to go to someone who's gonna care for the place, or maybe give a new family a chance because the seller was a new family when they bought, stuff like that. So that kind of goes into my third thing not to do when you're viewing for offers is ignoring your gut. And I think there's a lot to say about if you feel something feels not so right or feels so right. Because I've been in situations where it's like, I ask you, why did you pick them? I told you so, kind of thing. Or versus like, oh yeah, I'm glad the sellers come back to me and say, I'm glad we selected them, and I'm glad we chose them. The process went by smoothly. The buyer was very appreciative, and we saw it in the process and in the contingencies and the J1 inspection. So I would say it's a good. I like to think of that's the way I kind of operate too. Is like, of course, I'm gonna do my due diligence and I'm gonna run my numbers and I'm gonna check things. Being an accountant, but there's that gray area where sometimes it's like, okay, which way do I go? And to me, going with your instinct oftentimes works out. I see. So that's why I say you shouldn't ignore your gut.
Yeah, I mean that's a big difference between like Hawaii, like, and I mean it's more relationships, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
on the mainland, like nobody cares about your cover letter, right? Like
yeah,
you got a family and 4 kids, nobody cares, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
then a
No, but to
couple of
your
years
point, yeah,
ago,
I mean,
they were just waiving inspection contingencies just to get more competitive. Crazy.
yeah, 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 yeah. Or I mean, even just the blind offers, right? Sight unseen, you're just putting offers. That is still being done, and yeah, even on the mainland too, right? Even though maybe less so than before with this shift, but yeah, I mean, a lot of is it developers or investors have like an algorithm where they'll set it up so that they'll find these properties, make an offer X% below list price. If it gets accepted, then they'll come in and check out the property, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And you don't really want to work with those guys as a seller because they're not emotional. They're not going to overpay.
yep.
They're more, black and white. And if they find something, they're going to snake their way out of the agreement somehow.
Yeah, exactly. But sometimes it's it's guys like us who can benefit off of those ones that fall out too, right? Because
Yeah,
wondering why
yeah,
did this deal get snatched up so fast, and then you kind of just wait in the wings and you make sure you're talking to the seller's agent, and you'll be the next guy once that one falls out. So that's what kind of happened to me on a deal in Kansas City, actually. So we're getting off topic, but anyways,
yeah,
yeah, those are my three tips for when you're selling a property and reviewing offers.
yeah. I actually had one of my properties go into contract last week. Selling my Indianapolis rental,
Okay.
and then one of them. Oh, that one, we had one offer. So my agent was kind of keeping me informed that he's like viewing how many showings you had.
Mm.
Another one, like another deal I was doing in Atlanta, selling that property. Like I got like email notification every time somebody went into the property.
Mm.
It
Okay.
kind of
Okay.
got a little overwhelming, got a little annoying. But you can see the action, right? And then so his thing was like, "Hey, we got to offer. We better go wait for go and do it." But I was kind of, I'm not an idiot, right? I was like, hey, dude, like, let's just wait a couple days, right? Let's kind of drag our feet on the offer and just see if anything else comes in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that's why as a buyer you gotta kind of trust but verify your agent, right? That
Yeah. I mean,
represents
that's
your
yeah,
best interest and not just trying to go for the quick sale.
yeah, that's kind of odd. Is it because you're out of state and he just wants to try to close?
It's $100,000. I think the purchase price is like 120,000. It's not much, right? I mean, I
I
don't
see.
blame them. That's money. Time is
Right. Right.
money.
Right.
Yeah,
He's just trying to close your deal.
but
And
as the person listening to this, it could mean the difference between you getting 120 or $124,000.
yep. Yep. Yep.
So
That's
look out for yourself, right?
yeah.
It's doggy dog world on the mainland.
Yeah. They to your point too. Then they're trying to turn and burn in terms of they need
Yeah,
the volume, right? So and especially if you're out of state, they might think, if they think you want out for these reasons, it's like, okay, well, that first offer would let's just close this deal and move on, right? And they think you probably want to move on too, right?
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, you gotta wait. You gotta like in that situation, you want to lock the other buyer up. Like you want to get them, but you got to look at the expiration date on these things. You
Yeah,
got time usually.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. So it's like we said, it's a case by case basis, right?
Yeah,
And your realtor should understand your situation. So that's important. And realtor is supposed to be doing what's in your best interest. Yeah.
right. So the last thing we're going to talk about here is recently the stocks have been kind of down here in October. Um, my I don't own any stocks. I'm not a big fan of equities. I think it's a lot of fake money being put into the equities markets, and I think it's kind of rigged how people high up can take returns, and but you know
It's too efficient of a market, huh?
yeah, yeah, it's there are winners and losers, right? And
Yeah.
it's not a it's a vacuum. And if you're one of the it's like the poker games they get here, right?
Yeah.
Like you think you're all cool, you're going into these games, but if you don't know anybody else there, you're probably the sucker there that everyone's going
Yep.
to take advantage of you.
Yep.
That's kind of what the stock market is. But anyway, like supposedly the stock market is based on GDP and other things and PNEs. So here are some stats. They're saying that if you look at the fourth quarter 2017 and then first quarter this year and then second quarter, third quarter, it's kind of still going up. Um, but it's just another example of you can put whatever data you want, but the stocks have been going down, and this is how the impact on the interest rates. Still kind of hugging this. Of course, the brokers always say like all time lows, right?
Mhm. And
But
those are just some factors, right? Because you're talking about the GDP in the previous slide, but there are like a couple big corrections, right? This past month in October after
yeah,
the GDP results.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I just kind of just remind people that people argue all the time, is it's a good time to buy, bad time to buy. This thing is overheated, or everywhere it's the same. Everywhere it seems like it's overheated.
Mhm.
But I think sophisticated investors live on this third side of the coin, and they buy deals that are kind of out of the reach of just regular investors out there.
Hmm.
They buy opportunities that are undervalued, and yeah, they kind of don't stray away from their standards. They don't get emotional with purchases.
Because these are less tied into the GDP and those kind of statistics in those markets.
Yeah, yeah. So don't if you're a buyer, don't kind of chase things. Just kind of be patient, and it's tough, right? Because you're working with a lot of guys, and you could be working with guys for a while.
Mm. It's kind of to your point, like don't do what everyone else is doing. You gotta go, like they say that on the real estate side too, right? You don't buy where everyone else is buying.
Right, right. Zig when everyone else is zagging.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's wrapping up this month. Come out to an REI Aloha meetup. I think this next one is here at Beer Lab in Honolulu. There's my email, and then you get a hold of me or Dean if you guys need anything. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.